Russell Brand, Narcissist, Part 7. We're going to go back in time now to look at an early part of Russell Brand's career to see what it tells us. Paying prostitutes, seducing pensioners, gay trysts in pub toilets. Even 2 decades ago, Russell Brand was making TV programs that proved just how out of control he was. Between his breakthrough presenting gig at MTV, where he was infamously sacked for coming to work dressed as Osama bin Laden the day after 9/11, lack of emotional empathy, sense of entitlement, lack of accountability, and the stints at Channel 4 and the BBC that made him a household name, Brand fronted a largely forgotten docu-series for Play UK. Reappraising it is eye-opening, not least because as a star 5 years later, Brand said he was proud of its powerful, jaw-dropping content. Play UK, a now defunct satellite channel conceived as a TV version of Radio 1, gave him £250,000 to make a run of gonzo-style comic documentaries. The show was called Re-Brand, even the title's gimmicky styling, also playing off Brand's initials of Russell Edward Brand, is of its time, and prided itself on smashing social taboos. Its near-the-knuckle material looks even more queasy in the light of recent revelations. Created and hosted by Brand, together with long-time writing partner Matt Morgan, it billed itself as challenging. In his 2007 memoir, My Bookie Work, Brand called it swamped with willful self-destructiveness. Each episode featured what Brand and Morgan dubbed the money shot, a scene of the host, Brand, performing acts beyond the bounds of decency. Even by the permissive standards of the noughties lad mag era, this was exploitative stuff. A recurring theme of the Channel 4 expose was how TV executives failed to curb Brand's excesses. Re-Brand was an early example. 7 episodes aired in 2002. The opener, Dad Fight, saw Brand challenge his father, Ron, to a boxing match, purportedly to examine the concept of an Oedipus complex. After punching Ron so hard, physical assault, that he fell to his knees, Brand asked him, "Shall we go down the pub and chat up some birds, do something we're both good at?" Flippancy, superficiality. Another instalment saw Brand befriend a homeless man named James and invite him to live in his flat, even sharing a bed and having a bath together. James soon returned to the streets. According to Brand, he later died of a drug overdose. 3 of the episodes, however, had sexual themes that now appear even darker. In My Old Tart, he took an 81-year-old called Wendy for a dirty weekend in Eastbourne, bidding to woo her and awaken her sexuality. They went to a strip club together and kissed, but when Brand suggested intercourse, Wendy said, "Don't be silly, Russell." Lack of boundary recognition, sense of entitlement. Now bear in mind, of course, that this is all being done for television. It might be argued that the presence of trying to get views today, what would be seen as likes, was perhaps something that might diminish his emotional empathy, causing him to behave in the way that has been described, assaulting his father, having a bath and sharing a bed with a homeless person, and furthermore, behaving as he did with an 81-year-old woman. Or the alternative argument is that an individual who may well be a narcissist has no qualms about such behaviour because it's common to him. Acting with a sense of entitlement, a lack of accountability, and absence of emotional empathy, behaving in such a way is second nature and ideally suited to such raw and provocative television. To explore the dehumanised nature of sex work, he moved in with a Norwich prostitute called Ali, not to mention her boyfriend Pete and their baby daughter. The idea was that he'd get to know them over a period of several days, then see whether he could still bring himself to pay Ali for sex. Fortunately, Pete was so upset by the request that it proved academic. One abandoned idea saw Brand try to turn his own mother, Barbara, into a brothel madam. Lack of boundary recognition once again. The series climaxed, so to speak, with a 7th and final episode, Willy Willy, in which Brand challenged his own sexuality by pleasuring a gay man called Gary in a Soho pub toilet. Shows sexual fluidity, lack of boundary recognition. Afterwards, he was so unsettled that he hurriedly hired 2 lap dancers to do some heterosexuality with him in a limousine. It wasn't for me, he wrote about his toilet experience. My tendencies and inclinations towards women are very, very powerful. The series was made before Brand went to rehab and got clean. He freely admitted in My Bookie Work and mentioned on his radio shows that he was frequently drunk or on drugs during rebrand. Now, this raises 2 interesting observations. The first is it that he acts with a lack of accountability because he's a narcissist that he feels that it's appropriate to be drunk and high whilst he's meant to be doing his job? Or is it the case that as a consequence of addictions that he had to drink and drugs, that he would imbibe those substances which would result in the behaviour that you were witnessing? Therefore, it was actually the influence of substances and drink that reduced his emotional empathy and caused him to act as he did. You can make your determination. Is it simply the case that his narcissism was exacerbated by a freewheeling approach to conducting himself at work by being high and drunk, or was he simply acting without these boundaries because of his addictions? Had I not already been a heroin addict, he wrote, I would very likely have become one to cope with this silly show. He admitted he was in a psychologically damaged place. Is this accurate, or is it a pity play? Caught up in his trail of destruction were vulnerable people such as James, Ali, and Pete. Is this just a side effect of him not recognizing this because of his own addictions, or is it instrumental in the fact that this man has no emotional empathy? Despite the Daily Star's esteemed critic calling it the best thing I've ever seen on TV, Rebrand was not recommissioned. The following year, Brand is alleged to have made a sexual assault against a woman in Soho. Brand absolutely refutes the accusations levelled at him, claiming his relationships were always consensual. The year after that, he would be hosting Big Brother spin-off E-Forum and Big Mouth, where, according to the Dispatch's documentary, he made production staff act like pimps by procuring the phone numbers of female audience members. Rebrand, in retrospect, was yet another red flag that went ignored. So is the observation that is put forward by Michael Hogan, writing in The Telegraph. But revisiting this programme does allow us to see further narcissistic indicators, but does raise the possibility that perhaps they only came about as a consequence of addiction, rather than narcissism. We'll continue our exploration of Russell Brand in Part 8. Join me there.